Welcome to the Recycle Podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFanya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 99. The math ain't mathin'. Today's mood music is brought to you by Jadina, Classic Man.
Cause I'm a classic man. I love that song.
He is my fellow dyed ginger.
So, as you probably can guess, this session is going to be about high value people, man and woman.
Yes.
So, my question is, does a high value person bring more value to a relationship? Let me read that again because I felt like my lips did something weird on the first volume. Does a high value person bring more value to a relationship?
I want to say yes, but I don't really have anything to qualify that. Because it feels like, based off the question, the fact that they're high value, that they already inherently bring value to the relationship. But I guess even low value people still can bring some value. So because you're just there, so you still serve a purpose in that person's life. So I would say yes, kind of like on a just because you are.
Okay.
So my answer is more along the lines of, what are we defining high value as? Because if it's just these material things, then the value would still be low. But if it is more encompassing of what that person needs in a relationship, what that person needs in a partnership, then yes, of course. The controversy with this topic is the definition of high value versus does this person bring more? This person, it's really about the two people or however many people are in a relationship agreeing on what is needed.
I agree.
So I would say no, because I think both people have value, regardless of, I don't necessarily subscribe to the high and low value of a person, because if I'm a being, I have value. So because I exist on this earth, I am a high value person. Now, granted, there may be characteristics about me that may be more, sufficient. And I may have confidence where someone else may not, but that doesn't make me high value and that person low value. I think the wording of this whole idea is ludicrous, but it is what it is.
I think really in this session, the interns are going to hear that it's not really the term high value. It's more so, are you healthy?
Yes.
Are you self-sufficient? Are you someone that is capable of love and able to receive it as well? So I think, or I'm hoping at the end of this, that's what our interns are going to get versus this whole notion of high value, low value, and all that other kind of stuff.
So we do have a definition for what a high value man is. The term high value man, as it is commonly used today, refers to a man of means and influence.
Mm-hmm.
So, based on that definition, like Dr. Wall was just breaking down, I would definitely say no, they don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it depends on if you're looking at it as more and less.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you're looking at value as more and less, then you can see that there may be differences. But if you're looking at value as, um, like you said, skill, ability,
Mm-hmm.
um, communication, like if you're looking at it as traits,
Mm-hmm.
then
The intangibles.
yeah, then I could see, yeah, that a high value person could bring more to a
Relationship. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't think you said more, but
The vibe of it, the feel of it.
the vibe and the feel of it is more versus less. But um, I think if you have those attributes, you can bring value to a relationship.
I did say more. Does a high value person bring more value to a relationship?
Gotcha.
Okay. So I think if you're looking at those types of qualities, then yes, you can. Because if you're a horrible communicator, if you're manipulative, if you're abusive, if you are um, hurtful,
Mm-hmm.
then I would say that you take value away from the relationship.
But that doesn't mean that that person doesn't have value. Just because you're an abusive person doesn't mean you don't have value.
But that wasn't necessarily the question that you asked, though.
I didn't break it down though. I just said value.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So based off the way I'm interpreting your question,
Mm-hmm.
that if you have those qualities, then yes, I would bring more value to the relationship because I'm not inflicting pain. I'm not.
But if you're staying in an abusive relationship, then based on this definition, you don't have it. So based on that, neither of you have it.
Well, yeah, you would, because if it's influence, then if I'm bringing health to you, I can influence you in a way that would promote you to do better, be healthier.
Not if you're in an abusive relationship.
Right. So then I would not be a high value.
Neither of them would, I don't think.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But you asked about the high value person.
But you said abuse. So that was one of your examples.
Right. So then then I would not be a high value person, so I would bring less to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them would.
Both as in who?
The abuser and the abused would be I guess low. I hate to say that. But neither of them would bring, I guess, high value to the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was specifically talking if I was a high value person, like the high value person, what they bring to the relationship, not necessarily are both people high value.
Mm-hmm.
If one person is high, because that's the way I interpreted your question to be, not if it was two high value people, if at least one of them was high value, would they bring more value to the relationship? So were you meaning two people?
I just said do high value because both of them could be high value.
Mm-hmm.
But I just said do high value people bring more value to the relationship, whether or not it's both or one. Do they bring value to the relationship?
Gotcha. So I guess for me, then I would just need more clarity on what the intent behind the question was then. Because I think the way I'm perceiving it and the way that you're intending it, I don't think I'm getting the same, on the same page with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dr. Strickland and Dr. Wall has a list of high value traits for men,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to do the women. That way we have both, because women can be high value too.
Yeah. So I think for the high value man, I would probably rather just talk kind of globally about it versus us going this. But from everything that I saw, it really is a person that takes care of themselves in all aspects, whether that's physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, relationally, socially, even occupationally. This is a person that is forthcoming, open, reliable. They have qualities that we deem healthy, preferable, well, useful. So I think where some of this has kind of gotten lost in the discussion and the discourse kind of overall is it's been pinpointed to one or two things versus talking about what is the overarching theme of what we consider to be high value.
And I would say that the information that I saw had a lot to do with either of these individuals having a level of self awareness and their footprints in the world that they are existing in and wanting to perpetuate health and growth versus destruction and being detrimental to the society and the community that they are in. And I think for me that is one of the major things that I've seen the difference in people that are just generally talking about this high value concept. It's more about belittling one side or the other versus it being about how can I be great? How can I show up in a form of healthiness that is able to be shared by other people instead of a form of toxicity?
Yeah. And I think for what I've seen overall for women is for women to learn to be authentic and be themselves and be approachable and friendly. And also making sure they exude confidence. So when they walk in a room full of energy of confidence. They
Definitely.
command the room, and that I think that's important for a lot of women, especially the women that I've been seeing now, because a lot of women have lost that.
Yeah.
And particularly perhaps because of the things that you ladies have said about the unhealthy version of high value man.
Yeah. I think there's a level of standards and boundaries that goes undiscussed or not discussed. I don't even know if that's the word. Not discussed in these conversations. And I think it becomes I want this, you give me this. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then you're trash. And I'm like, in what world do we talk to people like that?
Yeah.
Like, in what world do we have communication like that? You just had a whole monologue. You didn't want a dialogue. And that's unfortunately what I've been seeing in, especially because this is more so Black and brown communities have been kind of taking over this term right now. But I see that, and I'm just like, I don't want no parts of the conversation because I don't want to be around people that feel a need to tear each other down.
True.
Right.
True.
And I think for a lot of the women, they are, from what I've been working with anyway, they are learning to demand, require respect. So even if men do approach them like that, or they have those type of conversations with them like that, it's like, no.
Yeah.
Even if they are on the way up from being low value, what I guess considered to be low value to high value, it's still like,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, I was thinking about what you said about boundaries and standards in this conversation. But we've all kind of talked about this before. I don't think people really know what their true boundaries and standards are.
True.
And they're looking for other people to tell them what they are. So when you enter into a discourse like that, if you don't even know what you are looking for, and you hear this type of the way this rhetoric has been kind of spewed out there, then you are going to take on an unhealthy viewpoint of what the idea of a high value person is. because it's really going to be, again, like I was saying before, it's just boiled down to a few kind of specific little pockets, and you don't get a chance to see the broadness of what this category or topic really is. That is not so really high earner. Because that's really what a lot of this has really become. Is high value has been equated to how much money do you make.
Yeah, and that's on both sides, men and women.
Yes. I think it's been pushed a little bit further for men versus women, because we tend to think of men need to provide and men need to, and women being providers is not a common standpoint. Right.
What are your thoughts on that when you do break down being a provider? Because I think, like you were saying, there's this tendency to only think of providing as a financial example versus it being, am I providing protection? Am I providing safety? Am I providing love? Like, if all you are giving me is coins and paper and cards, that's not a lot. I appreciate it, because that's not to say that it's not appreciated.
And it's not, it is needed.
It is needed because we live here.
Right.
We live on this planet. But if that is all you can bring, and we're talking about the nature of high and low, you are low value.
To some.
But even in those situations, eventually that runs out. But people will stay miserable.
I think it's the easiest thing to measure.
It is.
It is.
And people don't want to be poor. As somebody who has been poor before, don't nobody like that.
Because even when you are with the, I guess, financially high value man, when, women will stay in unhealthy relationships in other areas. Like, he could be a poor communicator. He is not emotionally intelligent.
And sex is bad.
Girl.
Yeah. He's a cheater.
Yes.
And this is for men too. We're just saying our side, because we're women, obviously. But I've seen this in my male clients. They'll stay in a situation. Maybe it's, she's making more than him, and I'm just like, leave her. I don't say that because that's unethical.
I can think of one straight off the top.
But it happens across the board. So it's not this man against woman thing that it looks like it is. Although misogyny is running rampant in the streets right now, this is happening on both sides.
Yeah.
I think what has happened with this high value conversation is that it has gotten kind of mashed up with the manosphere, that alpha male conversation. I think those two worlds have collided in a lot of ways, which is what's making this, discourse seem so unhealthy and so skewed and so pit one against the other.
Yeah. And I think to add on to that, it's the demeaning of women. You're not good enough to get a high value man. You're not intelligent. It's the
talking down.
Belittling and being condescending to women.
It's a very patriarchal thing. And look at what has happened recently. We have the possibility of Roe versus Wade getting struck down, and we're going backwards. We're not going to get into the debate about Roe versus Wade because that'll be another session. But
probably on live.
But you're seeing all of this stuff happen, and before our eyes, we are seeing how men truly think about women. Whether they're scared and insecure, whether they think that's not our place. But in reality, when you start taking rights and privileges and things that the basic human needs to survive away, that's telling me that we have a very skewed situation going on.
And they're trying to say that our value is not important.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
They want us to do like that foreign country did, and women shut down everywhere.
Well,
I think that in this conversation, there's been a forgetting of the need for both.
Yes.
Both need each other. So
Mhm.
you can't even, how can you even be defined as, if we're talking about heterosexual,
Mhm.
because that's where most of this conversation is
Yeah,
kind of centered
definitely.
around. Um, if we're talking about heterosexual relationships, how can you even have a conversation about value if
Mm-hmm.
you aren't communicating with the opposite? So how can
Exactly.
women have a conversation about high value women if you're
Mm-hmm.
not talking to men on
About
what they
that.
need and what they see as necessary in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and vice versa? Men, how do you guys define high value if you're not communicating with women, because those are the people that
Yeah,
you're trying to target. That's who you want to be with. So
exactly.
It's all
both.
based on assumptions.
And
Yeah.
that is why so many people have been saying, like, when you talk down to the opposite sex, you're telling me that you really like your sex.
I've
Dang.
heard that.
Like,
Mhm.
you can't like me. You
Mhm.
can't. It's no way you like women. It's
Mhm.
no way you like men the way you talking to them or the way you are devaluing them.
But see, they'll blame that on the fact that they're telling the truth. Well, and we've said this before.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for you to tell us the truth.
Yes,
We can
tell
take
me.
it, but it's in your delivery.
And
I
you
like
don't
one
need
of
to
the
talk to me crazy.
yes, I like one of um the examples that you gave, that water is good for you. Go ahead and finish it.
So I'm about to cuss, okay? So what I said earlier was, water is good for you. It replenishes you. Some water has different minerals and different things like that. Get your pH right, get you hydrated. But if you put some shit in it,
Hmm.
I'm not drinking that.
Right.
I'm not doing
Even
none
if
of
they
that.
run it through a filter,
No,
the Brita's not gonna help that.
No.
no, because it's gonna have particles in it,
Right.
you know. But we're not talking about a dollar bill, because if you put you can put a dollar bill in anything, people still gonna be like, "Ooh, I can just go throw that in the washing machine." You can't throw your water in the washing machine because now it's got poop and soap in it.
Oh
Hmm.
God.
Hmm.
What are you drinking? What are you ingesting? So I think you have to remember that, and it's okay for either side if you do find somebody and you don't want them. And I think that's the other component of it. People are not handling rejection well. Like, I don't gotta like you.
And
Mm.
not like that. We can just be friends, and that's okay too. Or
And
we can just be associates.
and if you don't like that, then just say, okay, that's not what I want. I really want you in a different capacity. And if you're not willing to give that, I would rather not pursue. Use your words.
Yeah. I,
Emotional
both
intelligence
of
is
them.
on both of the lists.
Yes.
Yes. Emotional
Can we asterisk
intelligence.
that
Yes.
part?
We promise we're gonna talk about that one session. We have
Bold,
not yet.
underline, italicized.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of it is what's happening in this in these conversations.
Not at
Like
all.
none of
No.
it is, based off the list that we have
Mm-hmm.
that talk about high value. Emotional intelligence is high on the list, absolutely. And part of that is also communicating, like how
Yes.
you communicate. How
Yes.
you, and communication is not just the verbal content of the words
No.
that you said.
Right.
It's the tone, the volume, the facial expressions, the body language,
Eye contact.
eye contact, yes,
Yeah.
combined
Mm-hmm.
with the actual verbiage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that you don't need to do all of that, then that tells me that you are operating on a very elementary level of communication. Even babies are able to do this. They can tell when you're talking to them. Dogs can understand when you're talking to them in a tone. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So to me, when I hear people say those are things that they don't want to do, you're just asking for too much, I normally say, no, you're just lazy. And I don't
Mm.
want a lazy partner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's why some of this, at least on the man side, I have not heard this on the woman side,
Mhm.
but is that it gets lumped in with the alpha male
Yeah.
issue.
Mm.
I'm leaving you. Let me leave.
Right.
I'm not going where you going. I don't
Mhm.
know where we going.
Right.
Mhm.
Because we don't. That's why we don't believe in the ride or die situation.
Right.
True. But I think because a lot of these qualities are alpha esque,
Mm.
that it's very easy to swirl them together.
It is.
Because when you talk about being, a master of your emotions and focusing on your mental health and communicating and going for a career and knowing what you want to do and being confident. These are all alpha esque qualities, but they're also taking on the not so
The toxic side.
the not so great part of that.
But that's also
where confidence transfers over into arrogance.
Yeah.
But that's also why we started this month out with those personality archetypes, so that y'all would understand that across the board, these personalities can be healthy.
Yeah.
Of course, there are toxic parts to everything, but you can be any one of these these Greek alphabets and still be a high value man, woman, non-binary individual. Like, we just have so many things connected incorrectly, and it's time that as a society we wake up and really start doing our due diligence with being healthy and showing up as healthy people regardless of the situation.
And I think it's time for us to also heal.
Yeah.
Because if you, like Dr. Wall was saying, if you are experiencing these belittling, condescending conversations with the opposite sex, then you need to heal. Like, because if it's not the fact that you don't like the opposite sex, if you say you like the opposite sex and you still treating them like you don't, heal.
Yeah, I think everybody does, because none of us are taught any of this stuff.
Right.
No.
None of us are taught. We just kind of flying by the seat of our pants.
Yep.
And we therapists and be toxic.
It's plenty.
Constantly working on myself.
Plenty of toxic therapists out there.
Yes.
Really needing to do some serious healing on their own. But we don't know this stuff. You learn as you get older, your experiences with other people, of course, what you see in the media, and then just kind of your own personality type, and not the alpha type, but just like your own natural kind of innate personality. We just are figuring it out, and I think it takes some what's the word I'm looking for? Humble, vulnerability, maybe,
which is
courage.
Yes, to be able to look at yourself and say, okay, how am I or am I not needing some of these qualities or value systems?
I agree.
Yeah, I think we all have to remember that a lot of these concepts that's coming out now are new. Well, they're not new. We just have a word for them. And so now we can focus on those things, because now it's like, oh, okay, now I have a name for it now. But instead of us saying now I can work on it or now I can pay attention to it, it seems like people go to the unhealthy side of it quickly.
Yeah. I think another part of that is that, and this goes back to, do you actually like the gender that you're pursuing? They are doing this for clout. There is this, I need to keep up with the Joneses. I need to show that I got this, like this, like this. And it goes back to what we've said several times. Who is they? Why are you keeping up with them? Like, really identify, does that work for you? And what is it that you need in the person that you're choosing? Like, that's where your mindset really has to be, because there are a lot of people in relationships and are miserable, but they have value.
Yeah, I can see that. So then, where do y'all see high value? Do you see it as on a personal level? Like, this is individualized, the idea of high value, or that this is culturally, the idea, like, this is an American culture idea, or is this a innate human idea? Because some stuff we're just hardwired to do. Where do you guys see the idea of high value landing?
I think it's a combination of all of that stuff, because we get these sort of things from culture, and culture encompasses so many different parts. It's your education, it's where you grew up, it's your ethnicity, like your family, like it encompasses so many different things. And I think what we're seeing is because there's not a lot of connection, it's easy to be influenced by anything. And it's like leading the lambs to slaughter, you know? What you've said before, the sheeple. And that's not to say that just because you believe in these values that you're like an actual sheeple, but there is a quality, there's a naiveness that I see in people who just subscribe to something without fact checking, without being able to see that this is not all good, it's not all bad, this is the parts that I can take from it. There's no gleaning that's going on.
It's an interesting word.
I think it's I think it's cultural. And it could also definitely be everything, but I cultural stands out to me because I think we learn these things based on gender. Like men are taught to be, you know, head of the household. Women are taught to be homemakers. So if we look at the movies from back in the day, the women were learning how to be wives.
Mm-hmm.
We even go to etiquette school. Do men?
Some of them do.
I have never heard of it.
But you know what? When you said that, that jogged something in my head. Because women learn how to be wives and men learn how to be workers.
Yep.
And that don't go together. Because you got to learn how to be a husband.
Right. That is true.
Which is
that's why I was thinking about the etiquette school for men, because I've never heard men go to etiquette school.
It's rare. It's rare.
Okay.
Yeah, I ain't saying it's common.
and see,
I know
a lot
couple.
So a lot of women go to etiquette school, learn how to be ladies, but also learn the idea of being a wife,
a mother,
a
host, and those are just not like. I don't think people have realized that. Like, you want us to come together in this heterosexual, because we're talking about heterosexual relationships, but we're not equipped to meet each other.
Right.
Neither side.
Opposite learnings.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel like I don't know why.
Brain explode.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that is so true. I was well, I knew the part about women that we were, kind of, but the part about men, I was like, that is not traditionally what men are taught.
Yep.
Because I was thinking when you said workers, what I was thinking was women are taught to be wives and be prim and proper, but men are taught to be men.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Well, whatever that means, but we're not taught to be
women.
We're taught to be a role.
Yes. Something for someone else.
Yeah. That's where my head was going when you said that. But then, it got jogged when you said worker, but my head was heading on that train. And I was like, huh.
And that's also why, if you look statistically, 95% of women who are educated are the ones who initiate divorce.
Dang.
95%.
Man, mine exploded.
And it's not because we don't necessarily desire to be married. It's because we realize that our needs are being insufficiently met. And I can no longer suffer. I don't want to suffer. Y'all go back and listen to that episode. If y'all can you validate? Like, no. Like, let's both build together. Like, we can discuss what our roles are within this, relationship. That's not a problem. But to be okay with being neglectful of your partner, that says a lot about you. That you are willing to overlook the majority of her needs or his needs because you want to be king or you want to be queen. That's not acceptable.
That makes me so sad, because it makes me wonder where the future of marriage is going.
To hell in a handbasket with gasoline draws on.
I think that's a good question, though. When you think about where women are headed, and then even niche down even more where Black women are headed, just because we have kind of far surpassed
Yeah.
Most other, I would say probably with the exception of like Asian men,
Mhm.
we are in the process of surpassing so many other individual groupings
Yeah.
that I think that's a valid question.
And I think what's been going around is that Black women and women as a whole, we're in our villain era.
Mm.
What do
Where
you mean by that?
they are describing it as a villain era because we're like, no, I'm gonna do me. So kind of the thought process of Maleficent, how
Oh,
Maleficent
wow.
it was this bomb person,
Mm-hmm.
but we only got the villain part,
Mm.
not realizing what it took for her to become the villain part. And they're even saying it's about healers and people who help people. We're in our selfish era because we have been mistreated for so long that we can no longer give out because we have to replenish what we gave.
Mm.
So it's been a lot of awakening
Yeah.
happening in the
Yeah.
last couple of
Wow.
years.
But I think, because I've not heard that,
Mhm.
but I think that that is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a lot of sense for what you said about marriage.
Mhm.
Like, where is marriage going? I'm losing track. I think that makes a lot of sense given that description on if marriage is going to start separating and
Yeah.
or just not even getting married to begin with.
Yeah.
Which then makes me concerned about childbirth and
Well-
why this Roe versus Wade thing. Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Mm-hmm.
the world, so we actually are at our lowest birth rate, population, like world population wise.
We're about to start over.
Like, so people are just not having children, so we're not replacing ourselves at a rate that's fast enough.
Which is why I think they're trying to get rid of it to replenish a certain culture.
Statistically speaking,
Yes.
if you look at the document, I think it's on page 30, because I might have read it or not. It speaks specifically to that, and it divides by ethnicity. And it's just going to be sad because I am sure that people of color will still be able to get them, or they will become suspiciously sterile all of a sudden. So I'm just going to lay that out there.
Putting my 10 hat on.
But it's in the document. It's actually in the document that was released.
I'm gonna have to go read that. But yes, but given both of what you ladies just said, I think that I can definitely see more divorce in our generation, and definitely I can see more divorce in our generation and less marriage in the one behind us.
Yeah. And I think that's still something that many people desire, but I think once you get a glimpse of everything that is going on and the lack of people that actually want to do the work and actually get to know each other and just like be free. It's not a lot of people in that same brain wavelength, it's just too much.
Which is why I think this concept of high value, low value thing has not helped at all. I think it's made people even more toxic and
It's
fearful
polarized.
and fearful of relationships because it's like, if I got to go through all of that, honey, that's okay.
I can be by myself. That's what a lot of people are thinking.
No, I would agree. It is a very and we've talked about this before, not necessarily on here, but when people have a belief system, they become dogmatic about their belief system.
Dig your heels in. That's what that means.
Sorry about that. That's a Thesaurus 101 version. People, they dig their heels in. So if I believe that high value equals this, and you start trying to fight me on what that meaning is, then I'm just going to bury in deeper into that meaning.
Cognitive dissonance.
And then you get buried so deep that it eventually becomes part of your character, the way that you move, the way that you think, the way that you live. And it's hard to make adjustments and pivot to a different mindset.
So I definitely think that people have to begin to look at if we're going to go forward with people getting in relationships and having healthy relationships, that is, we're definitely going to have to reevaluate high value, low value, and understand that high value is not just based on finances.
Do y'all think that there's been a description of low value?
I think some of these individuals have discussed what it means to be low value, but it's again in those very derogatory terms and from a place of belittling, demeaning, and not from a place of truth, because everybody want to say it's being told from a true place. You just can't handle it. Well, if you're trying to educate me, you need to give it to me in a way that I can process it.
Well, because the thing about it is, and I'll just use this one as an example, just because you're a single parent, it doesn't mean you're a low value person.
No. Just because you're anything, it doesn't make you anything.
Right.
Like,
yes.
At the end of the day, there's so many nuances to being a human and to being a person who is healthy. I think that's ultimately where we still have to go to. Is this healthy? Because there's some things that were allowed many moons ago that were not healthy.
Yeah.
Slavery.
That is true.
That is true.
Well, I was just wondering because it's not, you don't hear that term.
No.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You only hear the term high value. So I think it's hard to, I feel like equate's not the right word, but equate something to low value because there's not a great descriptor, that talks about what that really is.
And people automatically think if I'm not high value, I must be low value, instead of it being like, hey, I have some things to work on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Whew, that's a lot, y'all.
It sure was.
Started off rough, but ended well.
It did, and we're going to keep it all in the video.
That's okay.
And the audio.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, we're all passionate. That's all.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's it.
And we're all thinkers.
Yeah.
We are definitely critical thinkers as well. So we all have, just different things, different ways. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I know different ways we interpret and perceive things. So of course, we're all individuals.
Yeah, and that's what y'all want us for.
Of course.
But like y'all said, or like I usually say, we always end off with a quote.
And this quote is brought to us by Bernard Hopkins. If you don't know your own value, somebody will tell you your value, and it will be less than your worth.
Must be his volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at The Recycled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.